And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us late on a Monday evening. Lots to get to around Major League Baseball, including the Boston Red Sox getting an extension done with Garrett Crochet. Talks about them getting an extension done with Christian Campbell as well. And based off of how well he performed in the first series against the Texas Rangers, well deserving of that extension already with only 4 games played in his Major League Baseball career. The Yankees and their quote-unquote torpedo bats have taken over Major League Baseball, with several other teams already having placed orders for bats similar to those put in there by the Yankees that will have their bats tailored to their players, moving the barrel or the sweet spot of that barrel to where that player swings. Curious to see how Major League Baseball decides to officiate the rules of the bats as we go through, but at least for right now, everything seems on the up and up for the New York Yankees. Texas Rangers have a great first series against Boston at home. Rafi Devers could not have seen it go more poorly. Today, Rangers get a little bit of smacking around, I should say. They get they get it handed to them 14-3 in Cincinnati. The Atlanta Braves cannot stop losing right now. We'll have to see if there's going to be any end to this tailspin. Right now, their offense is plunging. And the final big news of the day, Jurickson Profar, 80-game suspension. Just very difficult to see for a player that I find extremely likable, one of my favorite players in the game. This certainly does diminish him in my eyes, and I'm curious to see your reaction. To me, it's more of the same excuses that we see from all professional players when they're caught with this kind of thing. Who, me? I couldn't have done this, and even if I did, I wouldn't knowingly do it. I apologize. I take responsibility once I know I've been caught, and I'll surely, handle the suspension. But keep in mind, this is not an indication of my character. Please. I get it. Some of these are actually legitimate, and he may very well be that way. But the way I view it is, you're still suspended for 80 games. You still hurt your team for half the season. You're still going to change the way I view you and the rest of your career going forward and the type of player you actually are. That and much more ahead next here at The Upside. And welcome in, everybody. Appreciate you guys joining us. Be sure to hit that thumbs up on the bottom of that video. It goes a long way to helping us out here at the Upside, get more people into the chat. We're going to have a little bit of a lengthy one tonight because there's so much to get to with basically every team going through their entire starting rotation. Lots of news to get to around Major League Baseball as well. So we'll begin with the Boston Red Sox. We'll start with the extensions for Garrett Crochet. 6 years, I believe $170 million. Huge contract for a pitcher of his caliber. While he's certainly been a very good pitcher the last 360, 370 days, he doesn't have much of a track record outside of that. That's the really big worry for me. You've shown an inability to spend big in the free agent market in multiple off seasons now. And now this offseason, you go out there and make the trade for Garrett Crochet. You supplement the roster for Walker Buehler, bringing in a bullpen piece in Aroldis Chapman. You help out your lineup by bringing in Alex Bregman. You upset your highest paid player on the team in Rafi Devers by moving him off of third base, who he can't hit at all right now, hit his way out of a wet paper sack right now. And I'm just curious to see, where all these things are going. I'm curious to see. Okay, Goat. I'm curious to see, how this actually affects the Red Sox going forward. Does this continue to be a problem for the Boston Red Sox and Rafi Devers? They have to put him back over there at third base and say the heck with the defense. We need to get Devers back the bat back where it needs to go. And by having him play the field a little bit, takes a little bit of the pressure off of what he's able to do offensively. What does that do to the rest of your infield defense? A lot of big question marks going with the Rafi Devers part of it. But good on them for getting the extension done for Garrett Crochet. A little bit pricey for me, but the price of poker is always going up. We just saw the huge numbers this offseason when we saw Juan Soto get 15 years, 700 and change. Just huge money being thrown around. And then you look at a guy who never threw a pitch in Major League Baseball in Yamamoto getting that 10-year deal. Roki Sasaki, of course, can't get that big money right now. He will eventually get it. But I'm curious to see how this contract ultimately ages. With as little production as he's really shown, can he replicate it, and is he going to be able to avoid significant injury? No trade clause in there, so that's good for the Red Sox. They didn't have to give him that no trade clause in that contract, so good on them for that. But he does get a $2 million sign-in bonus. If he does get traded, I don't think that contract will be traded at least the next few years. Because I don't think it's tradable at this point. I think they did sign sign him to a little bit too much for my blood. But as far as Christian Campbell, I would love to see him get locked up to a contract very similar to a Michael Harris or an Ozzie Albies, something like that for Boston. He just looks every bit of what the Red Sox need going forward. A toolsy type player who's not exactly great at any one particular thing, but great at all of them. Has the ability to hit for a high average, has some power in that bat. He does need to change his swing a little bit, in my opinion. He steps into the bucket, which makes him very difficult to hit that pitch low and away. Very difficult to lay off that pitch as well. And he's going to be able to figure that out. I have no questions about that. It's just right now you can see a very obvious hole in his swing. Rangers broadcast did a great job of picking that up early. And I'm curious to see if the Red Sox try to figure that out as the year goes along, because he looks like a very good Major League Baseball player right now, even with that clearly defined hole in his swing. All right, appreciate you guys joining us. Welcome in, everyone. Cowboys Nation, Holly, Denali, appreciate you joining us once again. Brendan, Jeffrey, Goat, appreciate all you guys joining us today. How about them Orioles? Well, let's go ahead and look at the standings since you brought that up. So the standings as they are right now: Baltimore 3-2. The Yankees, of course, still at the top because they haven't lost to anybody yet. So far, their runs scored 32. We know their offense was going to be very good. That was not a question there. The pitching was a little bit of a concern. 23 runs given up to me is a little bit of a concern. I would like to see them get another ace-level starter in there for the long run, but we knew they were going to score runs. We knew they were going to be in the 90-win category this year. I do think they'll get a wild card spot, but as far as how high this win total could really go and their expectations in the playoffs are all going to hinge upon their ability to get a number one. Cowboys Nation, Angels, A's, Braves, and Rangers look like poverty so far this season. I don't know. Rangers, the two starts that they really had that didn't go well, Molly and Rocker, both struggled with location. Now, Garrett Beto, of course, He's kind of the Doug Mathis of this bullpen to me. He's in there for mop-up duty. He's not in there to necessarily hold down runs in the game. He's there to eat innings, and he did okay at that today. Gave up 8 runs, 4 unearned runs in the game, though. But the Rangers outside of that, great start from Jacob deGrom, great start from Jack Leiter, great start from Nathan Eovaldi overall. I'd like to see this team perform a little bit better as far as being able to have a full rotation, be able to at least go 5 innings, but it's the start of the season. I'm going to hold any rotation to the hard and fast rule of what you do in the first 5 days of the season, what your team's going to look like in October. But I do think the Rangers need to get a little bit more length in that bullpen. I think the loss of Dane Dunning back there does hurt them right now because they need arms right now. As many innings as they've had to throw, that bullpen's been very good up until tonight. But overall, I'd say the Rangers have done pretty well for the first week of the season. Angels have done great, 3-1 so far. A's, they're 2-2, about where I expected them to be. Not too high, not too low. But the Braves look pretty bad. They aren't scoring enough runs. Their pitching staff's doing okay, I suppose. They've given up 17 runs. That's still pretty good for 4 games. Let me update this because I think their game just went final, so it should be 5. Yep, they're now 0-5. 23 runs and only 8 runs scored. That offense is going to need a boost, and that's been their issue last year as well, as they got off to such a poor start offensively, too. Looking at some other surprising numbers so far. Astros pitching staff has been phenomenal. Their starter ERA is like 2.25, according to Brian McTaggart. I saw that tweet earlier before we came on the air. Really impressed by that starting pitching. That was their issue to me entering the season. They did have plenty of depth there. I just was wondering about the quality of that depth. And so far, the quality has been there. What hasn't been there is the bats. Only 8 runs scored as well. Only 4 games, though, for them. I do expect them to turn it around at some point. But the Astros, great starting pitching. That's going to be something they can build upon as the year goes along. Offense, though, might be their issue if it continues as poorly as it got off to so far. Just kind of running over some other highlights. Mariners 2-3 so far. They're giving up a few too many runs as far as I'm concerned. They're facing Detroit right now. As far as their offense, still again, big issue there. The Angels have won 3 games, only scoring 10 runs so far. Obviously a bit of an aberration. That will course correct. The Twins, almost nothing for offense. 4 games and only 6 runs scored. Yikes. And their pitching staff has not been very good so far. 28 runs allowed. Just kind of looking at some other big differentials here. Tampa Bay Rays are pitching very well to open the season. That's why they find themselves 3-1. But that'll happen when you're up against the offensive juggernaut that is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Let's go to the National League side of things. Philadelphia Phillies, about what we expect them to be. 25 runs scored, 15 runs against. Pitching staff's been pretty good. They are playing Colorado right now. Nothing too big to worry about there. They should sweep that series, in my opinion. Braves, though, the big worry there in the NL East. They will clearly be tumbling, and I mean tumbling, down my power rankings that we had at the start of the year. They were number 3 going up until the final power rankings that we did entering the year. That will quickly be changing. I'm pretty sure they're going to fall out of the top 5. I'm almost guaranteed they're going to fall out of the top 10 as well, based off of how poorly this first week has gone for them. The Mets, kind of an up and down start for them. Their pitching has been the bright spot so far to me. Their offense, I think, will come around, but so far it's kind of a work in progress. But that pitching has been the surprise to me. I think it's going to have to get better. I think this is a little bit of a fluke as far as how good that pitching staff has been so far. They're going to have to supplement it, and they will. But for right now, they're getting great production there. Marlins 3-2 start to their season, a little bit of a surprise there. The run scored is the surprising part for me. This offense I thought was going to be anemic at best, but they've scored 20 runs. They're holding up their end of the bargain. NL Central, the team I thought was going to win the division is 0-4 to start, and they do not look good. I mean, swept by the Yankees. Their pitching staff looked very feeble at best. Cortez, Savali, among others, just completely blitzed by the New York Yankees. We'll have to see if this is just an aberration against the Yankees or if this is a sign of things to come. Well, they did bring in some veteran arms to this rotation. None of them are necessarily guys you look at and go, hey, I'm okay with him taking the ball in Game 1 of a postseason series. You thought maybe they're good innings eater type of guys. Maybe in a good year, they're a 3.5 to a 4 ERA type of a player. In a bad year, they're probably a 4.5 to a 5 ERA type of a player. But the first week could not have gone much worse for the Brewers as far as their pitching staff goes. Their offense is ho-hum, I suppose. But that pitching staff, 47 runs in 4 games allowed. That ain't going to get it done. Cardinals in quote-unquote a rebuild, retooling season. Off to a really great start with their pitching staff. Their offense is clicking a little bit here. They are got a little bit softer schedule here that they'll be working with, but remember, they still are going to be trading Arenado at some point. Helsley, I figure, will be traded at some point as well. Reds got off to a 1-2 start originally, and then tonight just absolutely the bats came to life with 14 runs against the Texas Rangers, making that run differential look a lot healthier there. The offense is going to have to continue to put up numbers like that if their pitching staff is going to be up and down like I think they will this season. Cubs, their bullpen is shot. I thought they made some really nice additions to that bullpen. Apparently, none of those additions are working the way I thought they would, and they're not utilizing them correctly. Craig Counsell is supposed to be this great manager. I just do not see it. They're 2-4. They look lifeless against the Diamondbacks, giving up a hit to a pitcher. Now, that's not alone. There are aberrations. You don't want to let that happen, but one event does not dictate the course of a season. But what I can tell you is that it's the entirety of that game against the Diamondbacks where they rallied with 8 runs, I believe, in the 8th inning against the Cubs there. It's not just that game, though. It's been multiple blown games so far by the Cubs, and the offense is doing their job. 25 runs scored to 37 runs against. Come on, Cubs pitching staff, specifically that bullpen. Let's lock these games down there. I think Presley is going to have to pitch a little bit more. I think they're going to have to go to some of their guys that they're hoping to utilize in high leverage situations only, and probably have to stretch them out at least until they solve other bullpen issues. And, oh, by the way, David Robertson is still sitting out there in free agency. That would immediately solve your 8th inning option and allow you to have another weapon in the back of that bullpen. 37 runs allowed in 6 games now? That's not acceptable, especially with the bullpen issues that they are having right now. Pirates 1-4 starts. Honestly, the offense just looks anemic. That was the issue that I saw coming into the year, and looks like they're about where I expected them to be as well. NL West, Dodgers. Anybody surprised they're undefeated? Not me. But I think they're going to be a great team this year. I still think there's a really good chance they defeat the greatest all-time record in Major League Baseball history. I think they will definitely get there at this point. I just don't see a team that's going to be able to challenge them on a consistent enough basis to allow there to be doubt, for injuries to be enough of an issue to cause this team to lose games that otherwise teams with not as much depth might have lost. I think the Dodgers have really covered their bases quite well. Now, how they fare in the postseason will be a completely different question, but during the regular season, they're going to stack and stack and stack these wins. Padres look very good so far, 5-0. Runs, really great. Offense, 24 runs scored, 9 runs allowed. Pretty great pitching staff as well. They are playing Cleveland right now, so we'll have to see how the rest of this next week goes, but off to a really strong start. They'll be one of my biggest risers in our power rankings this week. Giants off to a 3-1 start. I think they're still playing right now, if I remember correctly. Let me see if that game is actually over. Can't remember if that game is over. Anyway, so far, 21 runs scored. That's pretty good for the Giants. Their offense has been an issue for years. Good on them for finally addressing it a little bit with Willie Adames and others. Only 12 runs allowed, though. That's the kind of the bright spot for me, is the pitching staff's holding their own, and that's going to have to be the story for them to stay in wild card contention, because right now, Dodgers are going to run away with the division. If the Padres are this good the remainder of the year, they could very well be finding themselves in a postseason spot. That's one more spot the Giants aren't going to have available to them, and then we have a very competitive NL East. It's going to be a very tough road for the Giants to get in there. Same thing with the Diamondbacks, who are behind them by a game. But that offense looks pretty good. 27 runs scored, 21 runs against. Pitching needs to get a little bit better. I do like that they got the extension done with Fat, but the Diamondbacks are going to have to get a little bit better off that pitching staff for me. Rockies, they get their first win of the year early, so they don't have to worry about them being an undefeated team late into the year. But 1-3 so far. They're not expected to be world beaters. We'll see how they perform against Philadelphia in their next game. But 9 runs scored. That offense is very anemic right now. They're going to have to need. They're going to need some injection of some talent there as well. All right, try to catch up on a few of your comments here. LeBron says he's going to be retiring at the end of the playoffs. Haven't seen it yet, but I think he's going to retire anyway, either at the end of this year or next. It's not like it was going to be another 20 years until we see LeBron finally hang it up. But I will say that he's still putting up incredible numbers, top 10 player in the NBA type numbers, even at his age. So whether you hate him or you love him or fan or not a fan or like what he did going to Miami or didn't, guess what? He's still one of the 2 best players in NBA history. He and Jordan, I think, are clearly 1 and 2 right now, and I don't think it's close for whoever you decide to put in there at third. Alrighty, I can't believe how bad Texas has looked. Ugly or injury bug, but man, they're struggling terribly. I don't really think so. I think Texas, the way you look at it for me, you got a great start out of Eovaldi. You got a great start out of Leiter. Great start out of DeGrom. Molly really struggled with his location. That's why he went really short in a game. Only 2 hits allowed, but 4 walks. You got to think the control is going to be better in his next start. I do think Molly's issues are correctable. How consistent will he be? That's the bigger question for me. The other starter who has really struggled was Kumar Rocker, who gave up 6 runs in his 3 innings today. I think they were trying to protect him a little bit, is why they pulled him out earlier in the game. Otherwise, they would have given him more length in that in his start today. But I think Kumar Rocker was given a little bit of a tough deal anyway to get the first start on the road. He's still a rookie pitcher. Has only thrown 2 or 3 games at the major league level, and it is a bit of a bandbox playing there in Cincinnati. That being said, you still have to avoid walking players. You still have to avoid giving up the long ball, and he really struggled with that today. I would like to see how he bounces back in his next start before I really make any long-term, or at least short-term generalizations about where he should be, AAA or on the big league roster. I think if he has another start like this, he'll be the first one that's sent down to the minors, along with Garabito, when they call up Patrick Corbin when he is ready to go. But I think Texas, the offense has looked a little bit rough at times. I think that offense is going to have to shake itself out of its shell. Adolis looks very good so far. Peterson needs to get a little bit more juice in that bat for me. Langford's looked decent so far. I think he's going to have to step it up a little bit. Same thing with Seager. And my goodness, Simeon needs to improve as well. Trout looks washed. I think that's been the case now for a while. Cleveland looks stupid for that trade. Let's see. For which trade are you referring to there, Brendan? Not sure which one. Got quite a few comments, so I'm going to try to catch up to these. Angels win MLB. I think they're doing really well right now, but those issues, I think, as I mentioned, their offense is anemic. Their pitching staff's done very well for them, but they're going to run into some issues when they have better offenses that they will be facing as well. You felt bad for Rocker? Me too. Let's see here. Profar was obvious after he was tragically awful his whole career until last season. Profar's had up and down years. He's pretty streaky. He had changes to his swing last year more than anything else as to why he was a better player. I will put it this way. He's tested negative all during last year. So even though you think, it was last year, it was clearly obvious, it was a career year, he was still tested 8 times last year and came back clean. He came back positive this offseason anyway, and that's where they had the whole process play out, and now we get the 80-game suspension. It was something in the offseason that happened. So whatever you think happened, it wasn't during last year, because the tests were still the same then as the test was this offseason as well. All right, let's see here. Devers is really 0 for 19 with 15 Ks. That Bregman move has him in his head. I'll put it this way. Devers, to me, I think he's in his own head quite a bit. I think he's focusing a lot on not playing the field. I think that distracted him on his preparation before the season. As the year's going to go along, I think that'll dissipate. I do think he'll be able to come out of this, but he is not this bad of a hitter. Even if he has all these issues going on in his head, he's not this bad of a hitter. He's off on every single pitch that's been thrown to him so far. The Rangers broadcast, when I was watching it on Sunday, made a kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment about him fouling off a pitch and about that swing being the most on-time swing he's had the entire series against the Rangers. And I think they're fairly accurate. I don't think it was necessarily just a joke. That was fairly accurate. He's very late on everything or way too early. He's not seeing the ball well. He's not taking his at-bats seriously to me. He's still very nonchalant in his preparation. And, well, you don't want to necessarily press. You do want to change things up a little bit if things aren't working well for you. Maybe go into, look a little bit more video, focus on a little bit more about the pitcher's habits, those kinds of things. And we've seen none of that from Rafi Devers. In fact, we see him kind of disengaged with the game during the season. And you don't really see that when he's out at third base. Not saying he's a great all-world defensive player, but he's at least a little bit more in tune to the game. To get those competitive juices going, he has to play a little bit of defense. And I wonder if they give him a game or two in the field somewhere. But Alex Cora was very definitive when he spoke with the media about him being the everyday primary DH for the Boston Red Sox. Now, I think they're going to have to jolt him around in practice a little bit, make him play a little bit of defense, and see if they can engage him that way first. Maybe get him into the cage a little bit more, make him watch a little bit more video, whatever the case may be. But right now, you can't have him hitting in that 2-hole. I think we're going to see them switch Campbell and Devers if this continues for too much longer. And Campbell will be your number 2 hitter. Maybe put Abreu in that 5 spot and then put Devers down there in the 6 or 7 spot, depending on the lineup that day. Cubs are pounding the A's 16-3. Well, good on them. Cubs offense has been looking good, I will say that. DeGrom looked solid. Yes, he did. I think it was 2 hits, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts in 5 innings. Brewers are 0-4. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Freddie didn't look awful. True. But Savali and Cortez certainly did. Who have they played? Let's see here. The Rangers, they played the Red Sox, obviously, and the Reds. The Cubs, they played the Dodgers, and now the Diamondbacks, and I believe they are playing the A's right now. Paul, welcome back. Appreciate you joining us once again. Giants, they won. Okay. Longevity doesn't equate greatness. True, but it does give an indication of availability, about continued preparation, about the ability to be a professional, and those speak well for you. Carson Kelly hit for the cycle. Shoot. Why couldn't he have done that for the Rangers at the end of last year? They were really looking for any offense last year from a catcher spot. He could have gotten a bigger deal if he had done that last year with the Rangers, but good on him for getting it done there. Cowboy Station, I'll take Larry Joe at the San Francisco job over LBJ in any era. I don't know about that. I know the Dodgers. Okay. Who have the Dodgers played? The Cubs, they've played the Braves today. They've played... Who was the other team they just played? I'm blanking. I can't remember who they just played. Tigers. That's who they played. Just Minks, welcome in, welcome in. Steven, welcome back. They said Devers hasn't developed a routine yet. Also, they say he's overweight. I'll agree with you as far as the routine. I think Devers, to me, looks about the same as he always has. I think Devers has always looked a little bit... I'll put it this way. He hasn't had necessarily a six-pack his entire career at the big league level. Look at his pictures from last year to this year. They're roughly the same. All right, so let's kind of look at the games today anyway. All right, 17-3 Cubs on top there. Twins get blanked by the White Sox. Yikes. Paddock with another terrible start, giving up all those runs early. White Sox are off to a decent start so far this year. Some really nice performances from their pitching staff. They could have something going with that pitching staff there as kind of a quote-unquote surprise. Do I think they'll win the division? No. Do I think they'll have sniff a wild card? No. But a nice start to the season nonetheless for the White Sox. Royals 11-1 over the Brewers. What is going on there with Milwaukee? The 7-run, 6th inning for the Kansas City Royals. That's what got it done for them. Good on them. Red Sox lose today. They're 1-4 to start the season. A little bit surprised that they're struggling as much as they are. Bullpen giving up 4 runs in the 8th. Ouch. Still, they had pretty much the game in hand all the way through overall. Phillies 6-1 winners over the Rockies. They get it all done late, though, with all their runs coming in the 7th and 8th. Rangers are pretty rough today. Couple of 3-run innings by Rocker. Not a great start for him by any stretch. Mets finally open up a little bit of offense today. 10 runs against the Marlins. Pittsburgh, again, an anemic offense. Only 4 hits in the game today against the Rays, even though their pitching staff has done very well. Pirates need to do more offensively. Blue Jays, 5-2 winners over the Nationals. They needed that one, honestly. Soroka didn't have a great first start here, but I just want to see him I want to see him have a good year. His injury issues that he had with the Atlanta Braves, we've talked about this numerous times. He's just a player I'm rooting to have a healthy season and do well. All right, let's see here. 18-3 now. Steele needs a razor and a haircut. He looks like... Oh, man. You guys are brutal tonight. All right, let's see here. Angels win in 10. Good on them for getting another victory. Brock Burke gets the win. There you go. He's had a nice start to the season this year. Good for him. Astros, again, an anemic offense. 2 runs came in the 8th inning very late when the game was already decided. 3 hits total. Yikes. Let's see here. San Diego, 7-2 winners over the Guardians. Pretty good there. Tigers and the Mariners get 6 runs, but they give up 9. That's not going to get the job done. That offense did enough on their end. The pitching didn't hold up, though. 18 hits, though, for the Tigers. 18? That's a lot. Braves only 4 hits. Yikes. Glasnow, unstoppable so far. All right, Cowboys Nation. Cade Povich looked pretty solid today. Once he gets that changeup down, he could excel. He's a very young pitcher. I think he's got a bright future. It just depends on the amount of time they give him in that rotation. I think he'll get time for now. Now, once they add a number 1 to that rotation, do they use him as a piece to bring in a number 1, or do they hold on to him and try to make it work with a young guy and try to give up some other pieces off of their farm system instead of him? All right, Kyle Hart looked decent returning from Korea. I did see that he did perform decent today. Was it yesterday? I think it was. Anyway. Was it today? Yeah, it was today. Well, I guess yesterday since it's after midnight. Anyway. 5 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 4 Ks. Did give up a couple homers, though. Arise, 1 for 5. Yikes. That's a rough batting average for Luis Arise. That's the worry if you're going into free agency for Luis Arise. You're counting on the on-base skills. You're counting on a high batting average, and right now you're at a 5%. That ain't going to get it done. All right. I do want to check one other thing. I want to see if Simeon actually got a few hits in the game today because he needed it. Nope, he's down to only 100 batting average still. Yikes. McLean looks really good. Ellie De La Cruz looks good. Seager needs to be a little bit better offensively to me. Peterson definitely needs to be better offensively. It's still early in the season. Jonah Heim looks great, by the way. I was worried about his offense. He's looked really good so far for Texas. Another great offensive day for him, 2 for 4. Power is there. The thing for him that we're watching for is avoiding the ground balls. He's certainly getting some elevation in his swing. He's got his launch angle back, and we might see the return of Jonah Heim back to a offensive advantage at catcher there for Texas this year. I think Elias would try to push Kramer in a trade versus Cade. So would I. I think everybody would, but they're going to want Povich instead. We learned an important lesson, never to give up a prospect. Jack Leiter gets hate, does good in his first game. Kumar gets love, does bad. Bet it's only their first game. True, That's kind of why I still want to see them, go out and get another start here. I think Leiter is going to be somewhere in between what he did in his first start and what he's been. I think Kumar Rocker is going to be somewhere between what he did last year and what his first start was this year. Could they both be much better? Absolutely. But I think the answer relies somewhere in between as to where those two guys really are at the major league level right now. All right, a couple of things that I did want to get into before we head out for the evening. One is the New York Yankees and their quote-unquote torpedo bats. They have the bats shaped a little bit differently. They move the barrel, or at least the sweet spot of the barrel, anyway, closer to the hands for for players who that's where their natural swing path leads them to hit the ball. Whereas players who hit it more towards the end of the bat have that sweet spot move towards the end of the bat. So it's working really well for the Yankees. Could it be just the Brewers pitching staff that they're facing, or could it be because of the bats? Interesting note, the Atlanta Braves have already ordered some similar bats for their team, but they have not received them yet. We'll have to see how those bats do. And if it's a noticeable change, I'm sure the industry will course correct. Other teams will get these same bats and try to elevate their performance. And I do think this will be something that Major League Baseball will legislate on after the season, not right now. Job struggled today too, but he looked solid. I like Rocker and told Michael he'd make the roster. I do think because of the injuries that Rocker made it, I do think they would prefer to keep his innings down to start the year, which is why I think they pulled him a little bit early. I think they needed length out of Rocker today, and they didn't get it. And so they decided to go ahead and pull the plug and get Garabito after after Rocker was able to get through one clean inning. Let's see. But I do want to look at Job's line. You said he started today for the Tigers. Four innings, 3 hits, 4 walks. So another control issue starting pitcher today. How many hits did Rocker give up today? 7 hits, 2 walks, and a couple of home runs. I did catch a little bit of it. He was really missing his spots, though, in the middle of the plate, which caused the damage. Singer was really good, though. He had a great year last year, sub-4 ERA. Only gave up 1 hit through 7 innings. That's an issue, though, if I'm Texas. You need to get on base a little bit more. A couple of positives, anyway, for the Rangers today. Church got out there and looked a little bit more comfortable in his own skin. Couple of walks, though, is the worry there. Garabito gave you 2 2/3. That's going to be the issue for me. I do think he'll be one of the first guys sent down when the time comes. Ezekiel Duran threw a 6-pitch inning. Yes, that is Ezekiel Duran. He pitched very well today, throwing a 41-mile-an-hour eephus pitch. Take everything with a grain of salt right now. Right there with you as well. Let's see here. They should be illegal if they read the rules on the barrels. That's the thing. Major League Baseball basically says the thinnest spot here, the thickest spot here. Barrel has to be so long. It has to be a cylinder shape. And outside of that, they don't really have any big... they don't really have any real justification for, how certain barrels are made. It's always been just, certain restrictions on weight and length and all those kinds of things. I think that'll be something that starts to get addressed a little bit more seriously and a little bit more accurately than the way it is currently. But so far, no issue for the Yankees at least. Altuve has been great so far, in case you're wondering. I haven't seen too much of his defense. I haven't been able to catch a Houston Astros game yet. Let's go ahead and look at his numbers. Offense was never a worry for me for Altuve, but offense for the Astros in general has been rough. Batting, .429. That sounds like the Jose Altuve that we all know and love. Alvarez, .083. Walker, .12. The rest of the lineup is really struggling outside of Altuve, and pretty much nothing else is really going their way. Blanco, 5 innings, 3 hits, 3 walks, and 6 Ks. Contreras, not so great. Gusto pitched well. Montero struggled once again. Hicks pitched very well. Doval, clean inning. Not too bad overall. He was at second base today. Did they take him out of second base entirely? Or take him out of left field entirely now? Interesting. Because I thought they told us that he was going to be their primary left fielder. That's an interesting one. Hmm. Yeah, welcome back, Mr. Vinman. Appreciate you. Luke Jackson, heart attack waiting to happen. I will agree with you on that one as far as, relief pitchers not named Mariano Rivera or Trevor Hoffman are generally, heart palpitation per minute. It's just the nature of the beast when you're in the ninth inning. That's why it's a different animal is required in order to be able to handle that role. A different mentality, a different makeup. It's very different pitching the ninth inning versus pitching the eighth. It's very different in that type of stressful situation. And certain people are able to handle that situation a little bit better than others. And those guys are, some of the best relief pitchers in the game. Now, is there a Mariano Rivera in the league right now? I think the closest we got is Emmanuel Clase, but I don't think he's anywhere near Mariano's caliber as far as a relief pitcher. That's why I do say that while there are some really good arms, Devin Williams, Emmanuel Clase, Edwin Diaz, some of the other great closers around baseball, there is no one at the level of Mariano. Otherwise, there's mainly another 20 guys that are in that same boat with Luke Jackson among other closers in a very similar type of way. Altuve is a primary left fielder when he's been doing good, who still plays second. Okay. See, Freeman hurt again. I did see that one as well. Hopefully he's, I think he hurt himself in the shower from what I heard. Hopefully he's back soon for them. I did not see if he was actually in the game today, but I hope it's not a long-term type of a thing. To be fair, Walker been getting unlucky. Well, that's kind of the nature of the beast. Sometimes you do get those balls to fall in. Sometimes you don't. Yeah, I did hear that one as well, Cowboys Nation. All right. Last item I did wanted to get to was the Atlanta Braves and the Profar suspension. I told you guys before he was one of my favorite Rangers prospects coming up, and even though they completely lied to the national media about his abilities, I think if everybody had been able to see him play on the minor league level, if scouting was done like it is today, like it should have been back then, I think he would have been given a real chance with the Texas Rangers. I don't think he would have had this inflated prospect status. I don't think the Rangers would have held on to him the way they did, trying to hold him back from any major trades. Remember, they could have gotten all-star caliber starting pitchers in return for him straight up, and they turned those offers down. They were offered all kinds of crazy deals in the first couple of years when he was at number one in the sport as far as best prospect in the game, and they just kind of gamed the system to increase that value, and ultimately they thought they'd hold on to it, see if that player became what they hoped he'd be. Ultimately, he did not. Way too much pressure for the young man, and ultimately found his way out in a three-team deal. Finds his way to the Padres, where he has some good success. Ultimately, not enough, so he leaves, goes to the Rockies for a year, comes back at a lower salary, plays very, very well, changes to his swing, looks like the type of player who could be a multi-positional type of a weapon, leadoff hitter for somebody in a playoff run. Braves step out there, give him a three-year contract, give him the long-term security he'd been looking for all his career, and then 4 games into his tenure with the Braves, suspended for 80 games. Just a very interesting career he's had. I really hope for the best for the young man. I say young man, he's probably closer to my age now at this point. But, I still have high hopes for him, but this certainly does change how I view him and view his career. We'll have to see how he responds to this on the field when he comes back from the suspension. All right, appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be live again late tomorrow. Unfortunately, had some major schedule changes with my 9 to 5 job, so we'll be back late tomorrow, probably in the 10, 11 o'clock hour, so be sure to join us for that one. And then on Wednesday, we'll get into our MLB Power Rankings as well. And we'll have to see how the rest of the week goes. But for right now, those will be the 2 shows I want to commit to. And we'll see how many other work changes I have. But we will see you again tomorrow night. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. You mentioned the White Sox. How about the White Sox? Never thought I'd say that. In fact, let's look at the White Sox right now. They're leading the AL Central, at least tied for it, 2-2 record. 5 runs allowed. That's the story of their season so far, is that great pitching. So hats off to the White Sox. We'll leave you with that one. Appreciate you guys. Have a nice night out there. Stay safe, everybody.